Welcome back to a new class of AstroFinance method. We are in a new chapter, Transit on Natal Chart, and this class is going to focus on conjunction. Most of you may be familiar with such relationship of conjunction on natal chart. Many people will speak, Jupiter is on my moon, Uranus is on my Saturn now, what does this mean, etc. Earlier in this module, we learned about cycles of planets. Since the moment that a pair of planets are conjuncting and until the time they will conjunct again, they will close the cycle and will open a new one. And in the middle of this cycle, we also could learn about other aspects, square, semi-square, opposition, to describe in a shorter section what the archetype of this pair to illustrate. When we are speaking about transits on a natal chart, we somehow can relate to this conjunction, to this cycle, in the same way we saw it in the general planetary cycle that is happening for everybody in the sky, and how it's interacting with your personal planet. For example, Jupiter will conjunct your moon every 12 years. Saturn will conjunct your moon every 30 years, etc. So sometimes we will get more than one activation at once. For example, Saturn will conjunct your moon on the same time Uranus will trine your moon. And on the same time, Pluto will square your moon. This is a rare situation that we will need to contemplate and to ask and to investigate what this want to mean by using the archetype of each planet and the sign that is ruling, and also where the planet that is receiving the transit is sitting as well. So in this class, I want to stress the topic of conjunction that is much easy to find by observing a natal chart, and we will continue to do this on the natal chart of Bitcoin. And to see what happened in previous events and what is jumping to our eyes by observing the natal chart itself. We know that the symbol of conjunction is like a little line. We draw it many times. I'm not going to draw or to write anything of the index, but I just want us to detect using our eyes those transits that seems to be significant. So when we're speaking about significant, is slow-moving planet that is coming on a planet, and doesn't matter what planet right now, because if usually I will ignore that the moon is conjuncting your Saturn, because the moon is passing so quick, every month it will conjunct your Saturn, or the Saturn of Bitcoin, right? Because it's completing a cycle every month. The moon will pass a sign every 2 days and a half. So, but when a planet is slow-moving planet, like Saturn, will rise on the moon, this is significant, because this is going to stay some time and to interact with the archetype of the moon to tell us something. So let's have some example by looking on the chart of Bitcoin. And just before we are running the transits on the second circle here, clicking on the second chart, seeing where the transits are now, we just need to observe a moment only on the chart of Bitcoin, remembering that it has a moon in Aries, that the moon is doing a triangle to the south node, and a sextile star to the north node. We also know that Uranus is opposing Saturn because Bitcoin born after the opposition. This is what happened, Saturn-Uranus opposition. And this is what was the 2008 crisis that led for the birth of Bitcoin. We also know that the Venus of Bitcoin is exalted, is in Pisces. We also see that that Jupiter is in a fall position because it's in Capricorn. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, that's ruled by the moon, but in Capricorn is not the best. It's the last degree of Capricorn. So it's when Jupiter already have the ability to climb up of the restriction. And this is also very symbolical by the magic of this. And it's pretty much conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter in the chart of Bitcoin. This is big orb of Jupiter. And even having between them 4 degrees, this is a conjunction considered. Also, Mars is exalted. Mars is in Capricorn, is working very strong. So Mars and Venus exalted in the chart of Bitcoin. It's very significant. And Pluto is in conjunction with Mars. Bitcoin sign, sun sign, is Capricorn. So the chart of Bitcoin is very, very strong, and making it to be such successful and such desired, as we know since it's born, what it become in so short period of time, right? So the planets of it are actually explaining us about the potency of a thing, or even we can discover it for personalities. Also, personalities probably that born around this day in 2009. It will be good to invest in them. So we are putting a transit of where we are and where we were, and we could play with the dials by month or by weeks. And we are going to search different interaction that will capture our eyes to understand what happened and what will happen when certain planet, and I'm not going to consider the transit of the moon, but of Pluto, Saturn, neither the sun. The sun will transit each planet just for 2 days. The sun is moving 1 degree every day. Mercury as well, quick. Chiron, Jupiter, neither Venus, because Venus is running quick. It's just giving some ideas for what can happen in a very short term. But if Venus will station to move retrograde on a certain planet, this is something that we may consider. Also Mercury, because it will emphasize a zone that if a planet of Bitcoin will exist there, we would like to consider. I'm not going to run on all the options. I just want you to capture it in your eyes, what is happening. And here, by chance, I jump to the future because this is February, March 2023. And in March, toward March 2023, Saturn will conjunct the moon. This is very interesting thing. The moon of Bitcoin is exalted, is strong. And Saturn in Pisces isn't working very well, but it isn't working very well, and it's mastering losses, and it also could be expression of recession in the world, and a need to master spirituality. So Saturn is working like a brake. It's heavy, it's karmic, and let's put it by the days, just to see this happening, because they will be exactly in 0 degrees, both Saturn in 0 degrees in March 2023. But Saturn is related to a top, right? Saturn is related to a peak of arriving to the score. And it seems that into March 2023, many things are culminating to the next phase of what the world probably going to be. On the same time, we are seeing that when Saturn will conjunct natal Venus, in the sky is going to be a period of Venus and Jupiter conjunction with Chiron. So Jupiter and Chiron alone in Aries, reminding us a war and a need to protect our identity, our country, our soldiers, our men. So this is something that reminds here a very important alert. We don't need now to say what exactly can it be, but this is something that's related to a loss or to culminating loss. But look on the same time what is happening in March 2023. Pluto will conjunct Jupiter in Capricorn. This is before the world is going to experience for the first time after many, many years Pluto in Aquarius. And this will be a moment after 2008, Pluto entered to Capricorn. Now Pluto will move to Aquarius, but before this is interacting with Jupiter that born out of the bankruptcies and the corruption that were revealed in 2008. Pluto is also speaking about extreme peaks or transformation, also about bankruptcies, but is also showing potency. My assumption, as I'm recording this video September 2022, just by seeing those things without doing any analysis on it, that into this date we may arrive to a very important peak in the price of Bitcoin, of its potency. And Venus is entering to the 10th house, and Jupiter will be next after Jupiter and Chiron meeting. And this is the last days of Mars in Gemini, because it's going to move to, after 6 months of its retrograde, to move to Cancer. This is a very significant when we are seeing conjunction, that not just one conjunction happening, two conjunction on a chart. This is a very remarkable time that we will need to put all the projectors on. Now, in order to understand or to understand how we are going to unveil into those places, let's go back and let's see Jupiter when was on Venus, because now it will be Saturn on Venus. So we are going to take months, because it's a process of a month, even 2 years. When we're going back, when Jupiter was on Venus. Now Jupiter has a retrograde phase, and it was for a few times. We are going to catch it with 2 degrees orb on the planet itself, even that I said before 5. 5 is between the planets that is surrounding in sky. But on a natal planet, I would wait to maximum 2 degrees to be prepared. And we are getting here May 2021. When Jupiter was exactly in 0 degrees on Venus 2021, what happened? Do you remember? I do. This is May 2021. Boom. It was a peak. It was a second top. And look what happened. It crashed in 50%. This was Jupiter. Jupiter is also the ruler of Pisces, and it's in Pisces. And it's related to corruption and to lust of taking it all. Jupiter and Venus both considered to be benefic energies. They are giving you all what you need. So they gave profits. When I see Jupiter and Venus conjunction, it's usually take profits. But Jupiter was in 0 degrees of Pisces 3 times. At least 2 times since the time I'm speaking. It's going to happen again from the time I'm speaking. And we can go back. This was the first time that Jupiter was on Venus. And not to speak that it was eclipses time, okay? The eclipses season. Then, Jupiter, look only on Jupiter. Jupiter went direct and then started to retrograde from... went retrograde. And here we got it again in July 2021. Jupiter in Pisces. What happened in July? In July, it was the end of the bottom, and we started to cover up. But we know that... this is July. Sorry. This is July. This is the last time, the second time that Jupiter interacted with Venus. So it's still giving a good luck. It just was the time here to take profits. Maybe. We can understand. And something with Jupiter is always giant movement. Came 3 months of recovering of almost 100%. And then Jupiter went back and still... So this was May, July. Jupiter was on Pisces. So now in March 2023, Saturn will be on Venus. Saturn will enter to Pisces. This is the time that we will need to investigate. But on the same time, it will be Pluto to interact with Jupiter. Do you remember what happened on Jupiter in 2020? Let's go back. It was a great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn met on... Put days. Jupiter and Saturn were in 29 degrees. Even the Moon and Pluto came very close. On Jupiter. This was December 2020. December. Here is December. The peak that people were, that Bitcoin went to above the 20K. December to the 30K. That it was wow. And it went all the way from 10K to 30K. This was Jupiter and Saturn on Jupiter. In 2023, it's going to be Pluto on Jupiter, when Saturn will be on Venus. In March, we said. So we are understanding that we need to put extra focus on this period in order to predict what this will do in the market, the way we'll draw the chart. We need to understand what is happening and to inspect and zoom in this period. And we could continue to explore what happened in other planets. What happened when Neptune conjunct Venus? We will go a few years after. We'll go here. It was even with Chiron. It was in 2012. In February 2012, the Sun and Neptune were on Venus. And even prior to this, few months before, Chiron was on Venus. I assume that it was a great fall. On the same time, Uranus is on conjunct the moon of Bitcoin. Neptune conjunct Venus and Uranus conjunct natal moon. It's significant time. And all the same time, we are seeing around even February 2012, Mars to conjunct Saturn, and Pluto to conjunct Mars. Wow, it's significant time. Let's go to February 2012 if the chart will allow. Unfortunately, I think that it's going to give from... Yes, it's giving. Oh, great. This is 2012. Wow. Let's 2012. 2012. Exactly here. So indeed, something very significant came. Bitcoin fell from $30 to $2. 95% loss. We knew that is related to losses. And if we want to understand what happened, we will go even more define, because it's maybe, oh, here it's again. April 2011, with a retrograde, before Neptune retrograde, the first time that the planet met Venus, it happened in April 2011. April. Here is April. Exactly before a rally to break it down. It was a rally from of 5,000%. Can you believe? From 0.59 to $30 Bitcoin in a period of April 11 to June, in 2 months. Unbelievable. And fell back to $2 in more months until November of the same year. 5 months. Unbelievable. We can go exactly to the area of April 4th and to investigate. It's all about investigation. April 4th. Before a rally, Mars on the moon. We learn from this. Neptune on Venus. Neptune creates bubbles. Exaggeration as well. Also losses. Pluto on Mars. And in sky, we are seeing Mercury retrograde and Jupiter together in Aries. Bitcoin born with such conjunction, in different sign indeed. And what happened when it arrived to the peak in June 11? We're going to investigate it. In June 11, Neptune started to retrograde exactly on Venus, on the value, on the exaltation, on the expectation of Bitcoin to the moon, to the moon, to the moon, to the moon. Jupiter changed sign to Taurus. Uranus exactly on the moon. We learned those patterns from observing the planets that interacted that are interacted. And later on, I will tell you what of my studies are showing. I see already other aspects that are happening that are very bearish. And we will need to combine multiple ingredients that will happen at the same time to understand this conjunction. But the conjunction already putting us in a frame where to look. It's the easiest way that you are dialing up and down by the time and seeing which planet conjuncted when. And we are very much interested to understand the dynamic of Venus and of Mercury. But now it's Venus in most of those places, and also Jupiter. Usually what happens with Mercury will impact Jupiter because they are conjuncting. By the way, I also born with Mercury and Jupiter conjunction. And yeah, this is what led to a major peak. This is a peak. From here, with a retrograde, they started to climb. And this is a peak. You see how many planets and Jupiter in the 10th house, the house of the top, plus Mars, plus Venus together. Conjunction of Mars and Venus in the sky. It's explosive. Everybody say it's explosive. And maybe they say it even 2 weeks after. It's explosive. So from 30, it's adjusted to the 18. Still in the top. And then by the middle, let's take the middle. 5 of September, 11. 5 of September. Okay. What happened back then? Pluto is exactly on Mars. This is a transformational period and very powerful. Pluto is very slow on a planet. And we know that the next years Pluto will interact with the sun of Bitcoin. Neptune is starting to retrograde back to Aquarius. Uranus retrograde back, and if we know that it's going back, it will go up back to interact with the same planets. But we know that because Chiron is retrograde as well, is going to interact with Venus. So Chiron is wounded healer. It is still, the wound is in process. So we will go to the end of the crisis, to November 21st. Even that I'm on a weekly chart. So it's the end of November. Let's take, the end of November. Month. End of November. November 29, 2011. And here, Chiron in 0 degrees on Venus. Uranus in 0 degrees. Ready to go back to Pisces. And Venus is conjuncting with Mars near Pluto. This is what described, as we learned from the past, the end of the pain that lasted good months and deleted 95% from new investors that entered Bitcoin with $30 per 1 bit. Okay, so this was the end, and we are describing here pivot areas, pivot points. Chiron is wounded healer, and we saw already in the beginning of the module that Chiron, when we are seeing the aspect already formed, is giving the healing. Okay, from now we are going to heal. It's like taking the entire needle, the poison, and then is not correcting before. And this was the end of Chiron retrograde. So Chiron stationed on Venus. It's so significant. And what started after this? Look what a magical cycle after such a pain. First of all, correction of almost 260%. And in a section of 2 years, it went for 13,000% up to 140. From $2 a Bitcoin to 140. This is insane. And we can learn it from those aspects. And Venus and Pluto on Mars. This is not a precise formula to tell you, okay, if this planet, it will happen this. If this is a story that is formed here, but what I want to illustrate in this class is to capture the area of danger and peaks and to tell a story that will be supported by other features that we may combine on the chart. I think that this is giving a good insight to what conjunction on natal chart is and how we should learn and look in the chart combined with a timeline, and very interesting visualization on the slow-moving planets when they are retrograde on the same planets. This is one effect when they are touched for the first time, when they are retrograding, and when they are moving up. And on the same time, not only the planet, if suddenly in the next gong, I call it, in the next conjunction or the third conjunction or the same place, another planet start to interact with the chart. So in the next class, we're going to explore, also it will be a shorter one, but the trine and sextile on a natal chart. And of course, we will continue with the Bitcoin example.